Our Data Faces Secret Surveillance Scoring by Katrina Murphy. Class, I have decided to do my second ethical dilemma presentation on the Business Ethics Highlights article titled More Than a Credit Score is Creepy Surveillance Closer Than You Think. This article describes an ethical dilemma where everyone is a stakeholder and most are unaware it's even happening. I am talking about social surveillance, a scoring system based on data that is unknowingly collected, scored, and sold. It's like a watered-down version of Black Mirror's Nosedive episode where a woman becomes obsessed with improving her social rating to get a better apartment. The presentation will describe the situation, evaluate alternative courses of action, give a recommendation, and explain the action plan. Before we get to the situation summary, I would like to set the scene with this illustration. This is an example of China's social credit system where each person is assigned 1,000 points, which they can gain and lose depending on their behavior. As you can see, points can be lost by spreading online rumors, insincere apologies, cheating in online games, and not visiting your aging parents on a regular basis. In turn, they can be gained by doing good deeds, which include charity work and praising the Chinese government on social media. China has slowly started to implement their social credit system, which was originally slated to fully roll out in 2020. Although the system is not fully in place, the government fully intends to roll the program out to help control their massive population, regardless of how it sparked growing concern about the ethics of big data. Now let's move on to the situation summary. Companies, some most have likely never heard of, are using our personal data to produce secret surveillance scores, which are not as transparent and regulated as credit scores to help companies predict customer behavior. These companies include CoreLogic, TransUnion, Cornerstone, and the Retail Equation, just to name a few. Their scores are being sold to major companies across the U.S. There's no way to change your score after it's generated, regardless if it's inaccurate, and the data used to determine these scores is concealed. These scores are then purchased by companies to help make decisions regarding potential customers or employees by predicting their behavior. The scores grade whether someone is likely to pay bills on time, which internet browser they use, what their facial expressions mean, what their voice intonations mean. Advances in technology have also led to scoring algorithms using artificial intelligence to score everyone in some way or another. The question is it ethical for the U.S. government to continue to allow companies to collect, analyze, and sell our data, which could eventually lead to something similar like the system China has? Now let's move on to the alternatives. The rights approach, which protects and respects one's moral rights, suggests one has the right to be told the truth and the right to a certain degree of privacy. In this case, I believe companies should disclose their use of these services. Unfortunately, there is not much that can be done to stop the collection of our data without regulations, so disclosing the use of these services may be more logical. Another alternative could be government regulations put in place to allow us to dispute our scores and interrupt the possibility of a social surveillance system like that of China. In the 1970s, Congress gave customers the right to analyze and question their credit scores, so that is a possibility. Now let's look at my recommendation. In this situation, I believe my recommendation best serves U.S. citizens or the key stakeholders. The U.S. has a duty to protect the rights of its citizens, its stakeholders. Business ethics includes abiding by laws and protecting the rights of a company's stakeholders. It takes a good government-to-business relationship to make a difference in a social challenge, like the situation described. Now let's look at the action plan. By passing laws to make data collection and the scores more transparent, as well as giving us the ability to dispute these scores, the government will demonstrate the ethical standard described in the rights approach, which includes the right to a degree of privacy. Next, they should plan to regulate the types of data companies like these collect to, again, give us a certain degree of privacy. From there, Continued monitoring and regulation of these companies should be made a priority, and healthy relationships between these companies and the government should be a priority as well. Here are all of my references. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. If you are interested in viewing the citations for my pictures and data, please view the notes sections of the attached PowerPoint. Thank you so much again.